Call of Duty Black Ops has grown increasingly more extravagant with each sequel, and with that comes huge demands on the hardware. The bombastic set pieces, gadgets, and rapid pace of play all define Treyarch's design ethos. But for Black Ops 4, the time has come for something different, a more grounded, slower pace to multiplayer, even if the technology still seemingly pushes each console. Case in point, our recent look at the PS4 and PS4 Pro online beta showed an early code struggling to hit 60 FPS. And so turning to the Xbox One and X beta today, I wanted to see if the base machine is holding up, and whether a true 4K is in sight on the more powerful machine. Yes, it's all still early code meant more as a network test. The game releases on the 12th of October, and since the beta launched, Treyarch's been quick to stress they've made changes based on feedback. Mostly this relates to gameplay, addressing the way Seraph's powerful tac deploy works, for example. Also expect tweaks to the fog of war on the minimap and a general weakening of the body armor on players, with an apparent aim to make the respawn death cycle closer to older games. Clearly this is still intended as a slower boots on the ground experience, but visually speaking this is a forward step over the last game. The effects work escalate to a similar level to Black Ops 3, but there's a move towards layering more and more detail to each map, which stands out especially on Xbox One X.
Eliminated.
Everything here is running on X hardware, and while it's the best image on console, this isn't necessarily a true 4K in the beta. We've seen this game struggle already on PS4 Pro to hit that number, adjusting dynamically from 1920 by 2160 to as low as 960 by 2160, a quarter of the intended result. On Xbox One X, deathmatch maps like Contraband run with the same basic visual settings to the Sony machine, but it's also a cleaner, sharper image all round. The thresholds of that dynamic resolution are higher, with around 2880 by 2160 being the upper bounds, while we get 1920 by 1512 as the lowest result. Now in my experience, the engine pushes Xbox One X surprisingly hard at most points, and a bulk of my shots come in at the lower end of this scale. It's very rare to get either axis running with a direct pixel match for 4K, but again that could change by release.
She's done.
What's clear immediately, regardless of the numbers, is the perceptual result. Jumping from Pro to Xbox One X reduces that shimmer on building sides, simply by pushing more pixels per second. Now it's understood that Treyarch uses its own tech, separate to the rest of the Call of Duty games. It's a branch that splinters off to let it experiment with new ideas, away from Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer's efforts. But even so, Black Ops 4's dynamic res system falls in line with the results in World War II, where there was a similar difference in scaling ratios on each axis. The drops are more aggressive in this game's beta, but by and large, it's putting Xbox One X's horsepower to good use. Compared to Pro, there's more pixels and more detail, though you have to wonder if image quality could be pushed further by launch.
Shot end.
Not that it matters hugely in play. The action is quick and maps are nicely contained for small team matches. Battlefield 1 by comparison pushes a higher resolution of around 1890p to 1944p on Xbox One X, and in that case it does need it. Those huge sprawls can extend for virtual miles, and clarity at range makes all the difference for a sniper shot or firing from above in a biplane. For close quarters action in Black Ops 4, it holds together quite nicely, and the emphasis for this series stays on filling each map with constant action, a deluge of effects brought on by killstreak rewards. The beta does flag a cause for concern though. Xbox One X gives the best looking version by far on console, but it's the opposite extreme for the base Xbox One. Now this runs at around 900p as the max figure, and often with a trimmed horizontal resolution. But most of my tests show results far lower than this, often coming in at around 816 by 756 while in any major action. Again, this is scaling at two different ratios on each axis, 42% horizontally and 70% vertically of a 1080p image. Higher numbers flare up here and there, but in practice, a surprising wealth of test shots reveal 756 on the vertical axis. For Black Ops 4, the image quality here speaks for itself. Base Xbox One footage is distinctive for its blurry image quality, and you can't shake the feeling it's the lesser experience, even with the X version out of sight. Your competitive edge isn't lost to any great extent, and the big red text above enemy players still highlights your target across a map. Draw distance settings too are similar between the base machine and X from what I'm seeing, but the fact is it's not a great way to appreciate the details of these maps, which I have covered at length on PS4 and Pro. If this is how the final game turns out, the impression is Black Ops 4 is built with the enhanced consoles X and PS4 Pro first, with the older regular consoles being tagged as a second priority. A stark difference to the first Call of Duty titles of the generation.
Enemy lightning strike radar detected.
The regular Xbox One version does have some merit in core visual design though. Those screen space reflections, volumetric lights, bloom, and even parallax occlusion maps of all the other console versions are retained. It's possible texture filtering is dialed back here, as per so many titles on the console, but most other settings hold up surprisingly well to other machines. It's all something we'll have to look into more detail with the final release. Resolution is the chief area of compromise when it comes to looking close at the frame then. And yes, that is an issue, though arguably not the biggest. It's clear playing the beta on Xbox One that frame rate is the bigger problem.
Got recon.
Right, so if you recall our last analysis on PS4 and PS4 Pro, the enhanced machine got away with a better image and smoother performance overall, but it's still middling. 40 to 60 FPS was the range on both, and while better on Pro, the beta code still needs optimization. Looking to Xbox One X first then, the outlook is undoubtedly better. Yes, we still have screen tear within the top 200 pixels of the screen, but it's barely noticeable most of the time. What does stand out, even with the GPU and CPU strengths of this machine, is the drops to around 50 FPS. X is wavering constantly around that line, with the contraband stage showing it going down to a rare 40 FPS point. It's strange because often there won't be much in sight, and yet these drops are an issue. So what's the cause then? Well, without the developer's insight, it's hard to say for sure. It's possible that not enough map detail is culled beyond the player's view, or even that the thresholds of its dynamic res system are too high on X. Given performance is sub 60 FPS even with no real action on screen, and in fairly basic rooms too, one theory here is the game is rendering terrain, effects and other elements even when it's not necessary. It's just speculation though. For now in this beta, and as priorities go, we'd easily prefer a locked 60 FPS experience over higher resolution or effects. As it is, X offers the best hope right now of giving a smooth team deathmatch game, though what we've got here is still shy of the mark. Regardless, what we're seeing on Xbox One X is still the frontrunner on console. Flashing back to PS4 Pro for a second, it's clear Microsoft's console excels in all ways, but more time is needed, and I'm keen to see what happens to the final build and if a turnaround is possible. Now, the more worrying situation is the regular Xbox One, which is one step worse than a base PS4 in the frame rate stakes. Again, we're focusing on simple team deathmatch playback, but even with an early character, the results here are telling of where it stands in relation to the others. So what's going on? Well, the range is the most variable of the bunch, dropping to a nadir of 35 FPS in these tests, and only occasionally glancing the 60 FPS line. With the state of this performance, it's telling that the resolution is dynamically pulled downwards to such extremes. But even with that safeguard in place, this 5-year-old machine is having a tough time. It's not the Call of Duty experience as we've had it for the last few games. It marks something of a first as a beta too. Every year in August, we get a new online network stress test, from Black Ops 3 to last year's World War II. In each case, we usually find performance sticks to around 60 FPS, with a few tweaks and refinements needed ahead of launch 2 months later. But in Black Ops 4, all 4 platforms I've tested are being pushed extremely hard by the direction Treyarch's taking the game, and so it'll be interesting to see if that turns around by October. Bear in mind, this may not necessarily be the main event for Black Ops 4 either. In the current climate of Battle Royale games, the Blackout mode could be the one to watch for several reasons. A larger map with more players that could challenge PS4 and Xbox One systems in new ways. A beta for Blackout is penned in for September, so all will be revealed very soon anyway. As a first for the series, there's a few questions hanging over how it'll play out too, and whether Call of Duty's rapid mechanics will mesh with a more reserved, cautious style of play that these Battle Royale games typically rely on. And of course, if any of this will further affect the way it looks and plays on all consoles. Time will tell, but that's about all for now though. If you did enjoy this early technical look at Black Ops 4, please give us a like or subscribe to support our work. And remember, ringing the bell gives you notifications as soon as a video lands. We also have the original source file to this video on our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net. And to get in touch with me or the team, just use Twitter. But until next time, thanks for watching.
Good effect.
Hostile UAV circling.
He's done.
Don't worry, I ain't gonna salute.
Won't fit. Crash. Check.